So the Habs looked like the rest was perfect. They come back from 10 days off, and they went back-to-back nights. It looks like the top line back together again, and they're taking over the league. Carey Price is back to his Vezina days. There is so much to cover, guys. So, guys, welcome once again to another beautiful episode of Shooting the Shit. As always, guys, I'm your host. I'm Landsman. And with me, as always, is my trusted sidekick, my partner in crime, Z. What's happening?
Hey, Davey. Happy Friday to you. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. You know, it's been a pretty good week. Can't complain. The Habs come back. They had 10 days off because of COVID protocols from the 20th to the 30th of March. They come back with back-to-back wins. I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the haters were saying, oh, well, they beat a tired Edmonton team who had played the night before, and then they beat up a, Ottawa team that hasn't been very good. And I'm like, well, what do you want them to do? Like, they're supposed to beat up those teams, right? You're supposed to beat up a team that's coming off a back-to-back. God, they haven't beat up Ottawa this year really at all, and Ottawa's given every team the North fits. So it was nice to see the Habs put their foot down on them, really for the first time this year and actually dominate a game from whistle to whistle. So, whatever, like the teams are going to be, they're going to face different teams at different stages of energy and momentum during the season. All the Habs need to do is win, baby.
Yeah. I mean, people can say a tired Edmonton team, but at the end of the day, that Edmonton team is still stacked with McDavid, Nugent-Hopkins, Nurse, Draisaitl. Their list of top players of elite level goes on. So whether they're tired or not, we still went out, played 60 minutes, shut them out. We have not gotten a shutout all year up until this point. That was the first shutout for both Carey Price and Jake Allen. And they did it in great fashion, shutting out one of the top offensive teams of the league. Yeah, okay, then the next night they had a relatively easier time because they had an Ottawa team who's been playing pretty shitty all year, no offense to them. But like you said, they've been giving other teams a run for their money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're the spoilers to the North Division this year, I find.
Yeah, I mean, look what they did to Calgary last year. They essentially knocked Calgary out of any sort of, kind of put out any little flicker of hope they might have had to make the playoffs by basically beating them 3 in a row. So Ottawa hasn't been good this year. You just have to take a little glance at their record to realize that. But they also haven't been pushovers, and they we've talked about them. They're young, they're talented, they kind of play with a chip on their shoulder. There's no expectations. And so it was nice to see the Habs actually come out and dominate because, the Edmonton game, you're watching it, they really put their foot down on Edmonton. Edmonton was coming off a high energy, high emotional game with Toronto, but it was nice to see Montreal kind of shut them down and use the rest that they got from the unfortunate, situation of Armia having COVID. Take a bad situation and at least pull out whatever good you can, which is to get some rest, recuperate, get some of those ailments healed up, and then come out and this is it for the Habs. This is their season. These last 20 games. I mean, they're in control of their own destiny by just the miracle of losses. Vancouver and Calgary, did the Habs a huge favor by essentially losing almost every single game during the week off. And now the Habs are in the driver's seat. They have multiple games in hand on every team in the league, every team in their division, pardon me. And if they win out or if they win a majority of these games, they can not only solidify making the playoffs, they could conceivably challenge for the top of the division or at least for sure second place. So the Habs are in the driver's seat right now.
Absolutely. They're the controllers of their own destiny. And one of the big contributions, to help with this streak right now, it's 3 in a row. It's nothing to write home about. They haven't done that since February. But, one of the big contributions I'd find, it's a culmination, but it's the top line. It's the culmination of the line of Brendan Gallagher, Philip Deneau, and Thomas Tatar. They had been separated at the beginning of the year. They were dominant for a good part of last year. They were separated this year early by Claude Julien. But then when Dominique Ducharme came in, he says, well, you know what, I'm going to try and piece it together, see if it can get a little bit more energy. He flicked on the gas, and in those 12 games, the team those 3 players alone combined for 11 goals and 11 goals and 20 assists.
Wow.
With Gallagher leading the way of 7.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's I'm a huge proponent of analytics. You love the old school numbers, and I'm a proponent of those too. But I think it's nice when those statistics always line up, because you're telling me they basically put up 11 goals, 20 assists since they've been reunited. And really, since the beginning of the year, if you look on a site like moneypuck.com, which gives you the expected goals percentage and gives you a breakdown of 5-on-5 goals, of for and against, we're talking about the top team in the league, 5-on-5. Do other lines score more than them? Absolutely. But you know what? Not a single line in the league defends as well as they do and still puts up offense at the same time. So the percentage of goals for versus goals against, we're talking about the top line in the NHL at 5-on-5. Danault, Tatar, Gallagher. And not only is it good this year and has really picked up steam lately, as you mentioned, it's been good for the last 2 years. So, we had talked about Danault earlier in the year, and we had said how we need him because we need him to be good so that line can be good so that everyone else slots in. And his turnaround has really been the rejuvenating factor for that line.
Absolutely. I mean, you were saying that they have the 11 goals and 11 goals, 20 assists in the season. No. I'm sorry. That was the last month, just the month of March, 12 games.
Wow. They've been on fire.
It's lights out. And they're all plus players, plus 10 for Gallagher, plus 8 for Tatar, and plus 12 for Danault. Also, I'm gonna do another number tweak on this. Ready for this one? Gallagher had 7 goals and 4 assists in the month, 12 games. Okay, almost a point a game. It sounds good on paper. It sounds pretty solid. But when you factor the fact that he had 6 games where he did not get a single point, that means he got those 11 points and those 7 goals in 6 games, not 12. It's the Gallagher of the Gallagher of old fashioned, the Gallagher we know and love, the one who gets the pucks deep and gets the pucks in the clutch goals. That goal against Edmonton, I'm sorry, the whole team was celebrating in front of him, thinking it was already in the net, and he's just like, no, it's not, but now it is.
That's a Gallagher goal. Fighting through the defense, brushing up against the goalie, and scoring from 2 feet away. I mean, he's literally taken a skill he has, which is a nose for the puck. And that is not necessarily a talent skill. That is an effort. That is a heart skill. Because I don't think anyone would watch Gallagher and say, wow, that's the most physically, naturally skilled hockey player. He's certainly underrated, I think, in his natural skill. But he's not a Jonathan Drouin who's going to go out there and stick handle through 15, different pylons and, snap a shot into the top corner. It's just not his game. His game is hustle. His game is heart. And he scores from the mouth of the goal. That's just how he is. And he's a guy who is always going to give you 110%. So, you say that he scored all those goals in 6 games, which is great because when it's going his way, it goes his way. But I guarantee you in the other 6 games that he had no goals, he was still playing his heart out and probably had multiple good chances to score. That type of momentum and that kind of pressure and effort, it rubs off on the whole team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he is the heart and the soul of the team. If and when Weber does decide to hang up his skates, I'm hopeful not soon because I still like his leadership. But it's a clear sign that Gallagher is going to take over that. I mean, 100%. It's also really, sorry, for comical sentence of I liked it when he scored the goal on Koskinen against Edmonton because Koskinen was way out of sprawled and out of position. Gallagher taps in the puck on the goal line. Gallagher's 5'8", Koskinen 6'7". I was just like, oh my god. And Koskinen getting up afterwards and being like, oh no, shit.
Oh my god, is Koskinen really 6'7"? I mean, everyone towers.
6'7". Koskinen.
Everyone towers over Galley, but yeah, that's the story of Gallagher again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the little engine who could. It's just like he was a 5th round pick. He wasn't supposed to even be in the NHL. Never mind a perennial 30 goal scorer at this point. Just a fascinating story. But one guy we got to talk about on that line before we jump ahead is Philip Danault, because that's a guy who struggled earlier in the year, and we talked about his struggles and what was going on. Maybe the contract was on his mind, blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, since the line was reunited, it looks like he's settled down, and he is playing at not just a high offensive pace again, which is, you know, for him, it's relative because he's not a point-a-game producer. He's not McDavid or Matthews. But one thing he is an excellent defensive center, a Selke-level candidate NHL center. And when you're in a division with Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Mark Scheifele, you know, Elias Peterson, you need a shutdown center against those guys. And Danault can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, it seems that his season has taken a rejuvenation, 180. You know, he's back to his old groove. He's found his groove. He's more confident. I mean, having that line click, and it's not just one member of that team. It's not just Gallagher on that line that's clicking. It is the three of them clicking all in their own parts. It really just does give a lot of confidence to the team moving forward. You know, I mean, right now the team is in the playoffs. They're fourth out of 7. We know this. They're fighting to get higher. They're still making moves, though. The question that I'm going to ask you next to segue onto is recently the Habs went out and, you know, they acquired Eric Staal, former second overall pick back in 2004. You know, he's a guy who's not getting any younger, but he still poses a good threat. You know, he's still putting up good numbers. When he comes back, though, he's obviously going to come into the lineup. He's slotted to come back and play his first game as a Hab. We're in number 21 on Monday night. It's going to be tough because right now it looks like he's going to push Jake Evans out of the lineup. And Jake Evans, we were talking about beforehand, is playing some solid hockey for a guy who, as you told me, a 7th-round pick, also not expected to make the NHL. And he's playing,
it's a great story, too.
Yeah, he's killing it in the penalty kill. He's killing it on the fourth line.
Yeah, he's a guy, I think, who started out like the Habs, started the year out great, and maybe gave the Habs fans and management a little bit of a pause to say, hey, maybe we have found a solid fourth-line center, a depth guy, which was a big question mark for the Habs because, remember, 2 of their top centers here are Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, 20 and 21. And then Evans is 21. So you were basically your veteran center is Philippe Danault at the ripe old age of 26. So, you know, it was an interesting conundrum for the Habs before the season started because they were like, do we bring in veteran leadership? Now they brought it in on the wing with Corey Perry. They signed Tyler Toffoli. So they brought in some experience and goal scoring on the wings, but the center position was something that people deemed as a weakness for the Habs because of their youth and sort of lack of elite skill when you compare it to other teams in the North. All of a sudden, Evans comes in and starts playing great as a depth center, but then he kind of falls off the same way as all the rest of the Habs. And I think the Habs recognized, hey, we need to bring in some veteran leadership, so they went out and got Staal. But as you just mentioned, he played a fantastic game last night against Ottawa. He was very effective against Edmonton. He's been their best penalty killer, you know, analytically in terms of suppressing chances. And what I've loved from the kid is when they got Staal, he didn't just sort of, you know, bow his head and say, okay, well, clearly Stahl's coming in, take my position and kind of turtle. He just amped his game up even more. He gets the competition and he gets that he probably won't be around while Stahl is in the lineup. But hey, the kid's 21. He knows his career is just starting. Why not make a good impression? And you know what? He has done so. And it's gotten to the point where I would ask you now, with Stahl coming in, with Caulfield signed, who might be able to be called up, with a potential trade that could happen, what is the ideal Habs lineup right now with the depth that they have? You know, going into the playoffs, if they were 100% healthy, just at forward and at defense, because defensively they also have Sherrod who's coming back. We need to mention Toffoli, Armia. What is the perfect lineup, baby? You got to tell me here. You're dressed like a coach. You're dressed like a coach today, so I know you got all the answers.
I don't have all the answers. I'm not a coach. I have never coached. No, I mean, you know what? It's going to be a really tough decision for the management and the coaching staff to decide. You know, Stahl will bring that leadership, but like, you know, you're alluding to, Evans probably played his best game as a Hab last night. You know, I mean, I just watched the highlights. I was at work, but like the highlight, the goal that he set up for Byron, like the assist, he had 2 assists.
Shorthanded. It was fantastic.
Oh my God. 4 players on Evans, Byron, left all to himself in front of the net, has all the time in the world to undress Gustafsson, and pots it home. You know, like, he is really learning the game. And what I like about him, like you said, he does not bow his head and just say, okay, well, thanks for your time, Montreal. I'll test the trade market. No, he knows that he will be a future Hab. Because, you know, like, Eric Staal is 36. There's 15 years between the two of them. So Eric Staal may come in this year, may play the year with us and see how he likes it, but he's not going to be there forever. You know, and if for Evan's case, he will go to Laval, or he'll go to the taxi squad. My guess is he will go to Laval, and he will continue to grow his game. Because right now, Laval is growing their game. You know, you have players like Palin, who, yes, we know his debut was phenomenal, but then last year he played with us, and he had 1 goal in 27 games.
Yeah, rookie struggles.
Yeah, well, like the sophomore slump, but like it was really technically his first year.
Right. So,
yeah, no, I see Evans. I can see Evans maybe staying in the lineup, though, because, you know, like, I mean, we talked about this. Maybe I'm copying from you, but, like, Saul's played the wing, hasn't he?
Yeah, we mentioned that. And you're right. So you put Staal in the wing and have Evans at center. Maybe it gives Staal a break because he doesn't have the defensive responsibility of a center. And then, you know, Staal will probably still take faceoffs, and, you know, Stahl's going to get power play time. So, you know, you're still using Staal. It's just a matter of where you slot him in. But again, the question is, I think you and I agree. We just spent, you know, a bunch of time talking about Tatar, Danault, Gallagher. You're not touching that line. That line's sticking together. Anderson, Suzuki, Drouin, Kotkaniemi, Toffoli, those 5 guys, they're not coming out of the lineup. You know, maybe you mix and match. Maybe when Toffoli comes back, maybe you put him up with Suzuki and you drop Anderson with Kotkaniemi. The question mark is, if Staal and Perry are fixtures in the lineup now, that leaves a left wing on the fourth line to play with Staal and Perry, and it leaves a winger, either left or right, because Toffoli can move around, to play with Kotkaniemi and Toffoli. Who are taking those spots in the lineup? Because you have Byron, Lekkinen, Armia, and Evans, right? Never mind Frolik. So that's the question I'm posing to you right now. Who do you keep and who sits?
It's a tough call, you know, because they all have their different pedigrees of what they can bring to the team. Unfortunately, like, I know that I've heard rumblings of like a few names being thrown out on the trade block. I know that Armia is a very big hot commodity. He's a big body. He plays the penalty kill. He plays the power play. He will score the big goals. He will take the body. He will do pretty much everything you ask of him, he'll do. But his contract is fairly large for us. It's a little bit too much to take on.
Oh, then he's a UFA, remember that.
And he's a UFA come July, well, not July 1, but come free agency, he is a UFA. Then you have a guy like Lekkinen, who has had a very abysmal season, no offense. I know you love him. And
that just hit me right here, Davey.
I'm sorry. It wasn't my intention. If you need to take it up with Arturi.
Hey, that's fine. He's not picking up my call.
He's had a really tough year. We'll say that. He's had a tough year. In the lineup, out of the lineup. In the lineup, out of the lineup. And then you have a guy like Byron who, I love the guy. I think he's got a great heart and he's got a lot of speed and things that we could use on our team. But the thing with him, though, he has speed, but we also have Caulfield coming up possibly soon. You know, but Byron's contract is way too large to just say we're going to move him because he's at $3.4 million a year. I'm sorry.
And remember, they have already put him on waivers to put him on the taxi squad, and no one's touched him. So you're not getting rid of Byron. It's gonna be Lekkinen or Armia, potentially with a Mete thrown in if it's a cap situation where they have to match salaries. Lekkinen is an RFA. Armia is a UFA. Armia's, it pains me to say this, Armia is probably the better player overall because of his size, puck protection. He's got a bit more of a natural goal scoring ability. And he's a guy, if you're playing him on the second line even, it's not, as a temporary solution, it's not crazy. Lekkinen is really a bottom six winger. He's a good defensive player. He's smart. Other than Gallagher, I'm not sure anyone on the team plays as hard as Lekkinen. He can go in the corners. He can grind it out. He'll score ugly goals. And he's an RFA, so you control his contract. And, next year, you got to sign Danault. Still, that contract still needs to be signed. Kotkaniemi is going to need a new deal. You got to decide what you're going to do with Stahl and Perry. There's a lot of question marks for the Habs in the cap next year, and having a Lekkinen who you can control with an RFA status versus an Armia, which you're likely going to have to say bye to, makes me think that if Bergevin's making a move, he's moving Armia out for a pick or two for cap relief and to get something for him. But the Habs, we've talked about this, man. Like, depth is going to be their great equalizer. They don't have a Matthews or a McDavid or even a Scheifele, or that style of player. Do you give up the depth, or does Bergevin just say, you know what? I know I'm going to lose some of these guys for nothing, but this is my best chance right now, is to cycle these good players over and over and develop good lines. So maybe I don't have the best players, but I have the best lines in hockey in terms of driving play and defending play. That's how I'm going to beat these better talented teams, by being the better team. So it's a big question mark for Bergie.
He's got a lot of things to think about for the next 10 days. I mean, this is going to be quite the challenge for him. I mean, the good thing, what we can say, one thing that's nice and a nice touch we're going to end with is the play of Carey Price. In the month of March, he was 6-1-2. He had a .931 save percentage. He had only 2 games under 900 save percentage, and of those 2, he won one of them. Luckily, but still he won one of them. And, he seems to be back to having his confidence back. He knew that he had Allen and behind him to pick him up if he needed it. But then Allen, not to his fault, had not won in 6 games prior to last night.
Yeah.
So then he was like, okay, I think I got to play my game now too.
Right.
You got to win games. And
Allen wasn't getting goal support, and Price was having bad games. So it was an interesting situation because for a while, Allen was outplaying Price, even though he wasn't winning games. But I think even just before Stefan Waite got fired, Price had started to play a little bit better. But I think, I'm not a goalie expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do interface and I do follow a couple on Twitter. And I think some have alluded to subtle changes since Sean Burke took over in terms of the way Price and Allen, by the way, are both playing, the way they stand up a little bit more, the way they're cutting down the angles, tracking the puck, their relationship with their defensemen in terms of sight lines, etc. And I think those changes are benefiting both goalies. As you saw, they both have performed really well. And I think the nice thing about Price is he's playing better at the right time, because we both know that even through his struggles the last few years, he's still a goalie who's capable of putting together like a 10, 15 game stretch where he's great. We saw it in the bubble last year, and previous, even in those tough years that he's had, is usually because he either kind of started slow or kind of started hot, then dropped off really quickly, and then kind of was up and down the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But he's still this goalie who's capable of putting on a heater for 10 to 20 games. And, in a shortened season, that's a difference between maybe finishing first or fourth or in the playoffs or out of the playoffs. And this is a great sign for the Habs. Not such a great sign for the Northern Division, though.
No, absolutely. He usually does start the year riding a high. That's usually his CV dictates that he starts the season usually high. Something that happens, whether it be injury, which knock on wood, it does not happen again. But he rides a high and then he dips, and then he struggles, right. And then we try and blame him, blame someone else. But right now, he, like you said, shortened season, it's the perfect time for him to come hot. And you know what? I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's going to make it a very exciting end to the season. They're about 20 games out from being done this year.
I think there's going to be a good finish here for the Habs. We talked about earlier in the episode right now that they control their own destiny. And, the COVID, break was unfortunate, and it was unfortunate for Armia, but the one positive the Habs pulled out of it was that they could rest. And you could see it in players like Weber, Gallagher, Tatar Danault we talked about, but they look a little bit more spry, look a little bit healthier. They're able to rest some ailments. And I think also it allowed, I know they couldn't practice, but communication when you have a new player. So like Edmonton and Weber were playing together. They weren't really good before this COVID break. Last 2 games, they've looked pretty good. And, maybe they're talking to Price and Allen and Sean Burke, who's now in the city because he's quarantined, and he's talking to his goalies. And these things, they're little, but they make differences throughout the season, you know? And Andrew Berkshire had a really good article in the Gazette about how, despite Price's struggles, he still had one of the highest high danger save percentages in the NHL. And it's a good barometer for a goalie's future performance, because technically, like, if you're saving the high danger ones, you can pretty much fix the other ones, the little bloopers that go by you. Or, you know, penalty killing is much more of a team issue than it is a goaltending issue if you're letting in a lot of goals in the penalty kill. But 5-on-5 high danger, Price has been good since the beginning of the year. And I think that he's made the adjustments where he's going to be solid the rest of the year. And it's going to give the Habs a huge boost.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, also, like, that 10 days, remember, those 10 days they were not practicing at the rink. They were not practicing anywhere with their teammates. They were not in contact with their teammates by Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, but not on the ice. So it also gave them, honestly, a good mental health break. As someone who works in mental health and, you know, knows all about the mental health breaks that one needs, especially in these times, I think it did them some good. So hopefully moving forward, the Habs continue their hot streak. So we're going to end with that. We will be back with you guys on Sunday. We will have another special guest, someone who is near and dear to me, near and dear to Z, and someone very special.
Well, more near and dear to you, but good friend of mine too.
Absolutely. Anyways, we're not going to say who this person is. It will remain a mystery.
I might have just tipped my hat, but yeah.
We will keep this person a mystery until Sunday. So, guys, I want to thank you again for tuning in with us. We really love sharing this with you guys, because for us, honestly, we're just having fun. You know, we're two guys who are really just passionate about hockey, passionate about the Habs. And we love to be able to share with you, whether you agree or disagree. You are allowed to, and you can come at us with any comments you want. We have thick skin. I have a thick gut too, but sorry. So yeah, you know.
Dave, I love your sincerity, man. I think it comes across when you speak about how much you enjoy doing this. I have a blast doing this with you. I have a blast talking to the fans who've been watching week in and week out. And I think they appreciate the fact that we're just two normal guys. Like, we're not pretending to be experts. We're not pretending to know more. You know, we're sitting here on our computers and trying to read stats and make sense of what certain things mean, and reading other people's work, other experts, and just trying to, you know, extrapolate whatever information we can and deliver it in our own sort of way and our own sort of a perception of it. And just like, hey man, we've had so many conversations over beers, which are not always rational. You know, not the best time to sound like you know what you're talking about when you're a few pints in, but you know, that's who we are, man. We're just two fucking passionate hockey fans who love the Habs, and we just want to share that with other fans who love the Habs.
Yeah, and we will get to the comments. Don't worry, we have not forgotten about them. But also, yeah, like you said, we're two guys who just love hockey. You know, that's at the end of the day, that's who we are. We have our own jobs. We have our that are not related to hockey by any means. We have our own personal lives, but at the end of the day, for us, it's talking to each other, talking hockey, shooting the shit. That's what we do. So, guys, on that note, I wish you guys a lovely Easter or Passover, a happy holidays. Be safe. So, on that note, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay awesome.